During Donald Trump's major immigration speech in Arizona, as he called it, Trump laid out new details about his border wall, calling it a physical wall, but also for the first time sprinkling in new elements of technology and surveillance. Here he is.
We will use the best technology, including above and below ground sensors, that's the tunnels. Remember that, above and below. Above and below ground sensors, towers, aerial surveillance, and manpower to supplement the wall, find and dislocate tunnels, and keep out criminal cartels. And Mexico, you know that, will work with us. I really believe it.
And joining us now for some insight and analysis there is Clint Arthur. He's an author who, like Trump, graduated from the Wharton School of Business. He wrote the book 21 Performance Secrets of Donald Trump. Clint, you've praised Trump for his ability to brand and message during this campaign. How are you going to go about grading his speech from last night?
I thought last night's speech was the best speech of his entire campaign. I thought it was extremely presidential. I thought it addressed a lot of really important details to the American public. I thought he used oh my goodness, the way he talked about technology in that session over there. You know, we are a tech-obsessed society, and here he is integrating our fascination with technology into his campaign. And later on, he brought on those angel mothers. That was the most, I almost cried when I saw those angel mothers talking about their children and how illegal immigrants had murdered their children. I thought last night's speech was one that anyone would have a really hard time. If you're an American citizen, how could you possibly have a hard time with anything that he said last night in that speech? I really don't know.
Yeah, a lot of Trump supporters are giving similar feedback as you are, but others are looking at the substance of it and asking if those parts of the wall already exist. A few examples. He mentioned sophisticated technology like sensors above and below. Those are already in place. The Border Patrol already uses those. He mentioned aerial surveillance. Border Patrol already has choppers already flying up and down the border. Mr. Trump saw that when he took a tour to the border a few months back. He mentioned more agents. The Border Patrol has had 500% more agents today than they did in the early 1900s, or 1990s rather. And along with that, a massive reduction in the number of immigrants caught at the border. And on deportations, Trump actually confessed to this last week. President Obama has set the record for most deportations, more than any other president in American history. So it appears that this problem is already trending in the right direction, the problem of illegal immigration. And it also appears that many of these new ideas might actually be more recycled. Does the wall already exist, or how is he going to change what's already in place?
He talked about building a big, beautiful, powerful, impenetrable wall, the physical wall. And that's going to be a construction project that's going to happen as an early initiative of his presidency. And when he talked about it last night, I mean, it was so thrilling to hear him continue to say that he is going to build the wall, the physical wall, and that Mexico is going to pay for it. I think that's one of the most genius parts of this whole campaign. How many people are going to vote for Donald Trump just because they want to see how is he going to get Mexico to pay for the wall? It's really, really genius positioning for him in this campaign, don't you think?
Is it thrilling because it's some kind of a satisfaction of appeasing the years long of immigration and all the people who feel their jobs have been taken, or is it thrilling because you see this as a smart strategy play and branding? Why do you call it thrilling?
Every aspect of it, because there are a lot of Americans who feel like their job has been exported to Mexico. There are a lot of Americans who feel like Mexico is taking a lot of our resources in terms of the money that's going out in the drug trade and the amount of illegal aliens who are getting welfare or are eating up our resources in prison or in the legal system or on the medical payroll, getting getting Obamacare illegally. And that is a way that it's working great. But on the other side of it, also, don't you just want to see how is he going to get Mexico to pay for the wall? What's he going to do? How's he going to make it happen? I'm so curious. I figure that he has a plan and that he knows what he's doing because he says it over and over and over. And by the way, if you look back at tapes of Donald Trump or videos of Donald saying over, you can see how the performance of that line, and Mexico is going to pay for it. That performance of that line has been modified, rehearsed, and evolved. And last night was the most thrilling way he's ever done it before. There was this huge, long, dramatic pause before he ran into the camera and said, and Mexico is going to pay for it.
Do you think supporters feel like that's a sense of revenge or a retribution? They're sort of paying penance for the years of migration and immigration?
I think that it is going to be payback for the unfair balance of trade that Mexico has been exploiting as part of NAFTA, and that he's going to use NAFTA and other trade agreements as a way to pressure them into quote unquote paying for the wall.
Right, and that's been his campaign position, was that he's not going to, Mexico City government's not going to write a check, but rather he's going to reverse the trade deficit and thereby pay for the wall, in essence, as he says. But we just showed a minute ago, as you were talking there were already 700 miles of fencing put up. The George W. Bush administration signed off on that. There was some issue of the use of eminent domain and kicking private property, people off of their own privately held property to make way for that fence. You can imagine a wall would require some more, so there could be some legal hurdles when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of all this. But I want to ask you about some of the coverage. You've been on TV talking about this quite a bit. You've been on CNN, Fox Business News, Fox Business Network, and a lot of other channels as well. Longtime TV news anchor Dan Rather has really taken the gloves off in this election campaign just lately, and he's hitting Trump hard for more than a month now. He just watched last night's speech, but he had a very different takeaway than you did. Rather characterized Trump's immigration speech like this. He called it a seething, angry attack on what he described, he's talking about Trump, as a world of dangerous murderers and rapists who seem to be roaming sanctuary cities. Rather goes on to say that focusing on a few isolated and already well-documented tragedies, the angel mothers that Trump called them, he painted the entire undocumented world with the casual brush of violence. He compared the us versus them rhetoric to the 1968 George Wallace campaign, and then Rather issued this warning. He says, with a raspy roar leaning over the podium, Trump delivered his message with glee. Maybe the thrill you were talking about. He said, this is our country and we're being overwhelmed by hordes not fit to be in our country, the us versus them. Rather says that Trump suggested, quote, these people are well known to law enforcement and could be rounded up with ease. It was a line that seemed more in keeping with the culture of the old East Germany than the United States. It's a very different takeaway than the one you had. What would be your reply to Dan Rather's comments there?
First of all, Dan Rather is fighting to gain some relevance in a time where he's really lost a lot of relevance and a lot of his former position as a prominent news anchor. So it's easy for him to try to pick a fight with a popular candidate like Donald Trump. But Donald Trump's main focus is America first. Donald Trump's main focus is not worrying about the rights and good treatment of these illegal immigrants. His concern of American citizens first. He talked about the ideology. He said, we want to allow in only people who will do well and who will love the American way of life and not the criminals. He talked about how there were hundreds of thousands of cases where there were illegal criminal aliens coming into the United States and how we have not been sending them back and has short-term responsibility to send those illegal criminal aliens back to their home countries. And how the result has been this unfortunate situation where the angel mothers would come in and talk about how each of them had a child who was an alien who was in this country illegally. And I almost cried when I saw that. It was so heartbreaking to think one guy goes up there and says, my son was shot in the face by an illegal alien and killed. How can you argue with that? Why should the United States of America be risking the lives and safety and sovereignty of our citizens?
Again, but then you're purporting to say that all the 12 million illegal immigrants that are here in the U.S. are by nature violent, when in fact all the data on record shows that instead American-born citizens are more prone to commit acts of violence by the percentages than illegal immigrants that are sitting here in many cases trying to stay off the radar, under the radar, not get caught for anything. In many cases, they put their heads down, they go to work, and the statistics actually show that the percentages are different. So if you're going to say we need to deport somebody because of their crime or because of their propensity for violence, how do you say that you need to deport those illegal immigrants on that basis? You could say you could deport them because they are here illegally, but to try and say these people are more violent, that's just not true.
Well, the issue really comes down to the fact that these illegal aliens are being afforded the same rights and benefits of tax-paying citizens of this country who have the rights under the Constitution, who are protected by our government's Constitution. We're giving the sanctions and benefits of the Constitution of our country to people who don't deserve it because they're here illegally, and they should not be afforded those same rights and benefits. And look, you cannot cure all the ills of the world in one fell swoop. It's not a perfect world, and there's a lot of difficult choices. And you may be right. I'm not familiar with the statistics of whether American citizens are more prone to violence or not. But if, as you say, that's a whole nother issue. What he's doing is he's saying, look, we have
that's
lots
the FBI data, by the way. That's not not our newsroom. Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I'm just not familiar with that data because I just focused on this issue of immigration for this interview. And if that data is true, that may be well true, and that's an issue as well that should be dealt with. But what Donald Trump is saying is that our country has a lot of problems, and how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And the bite that he's going after, the section of the elephant that he's trying to eat right now, is the section that relates to illegal immigration. And there are a lot of problems with illegal immigration, and he outlined his points, his detailed, he called it a detailed policy address on these issues and how he plans to deal with it. And that's what we're going to see happen when he becomes president.
All right. You can tell Clint Arthur is enthusiastic about the immigration policy from Donald Trump, the speech there. Clint joining us tonight from Hollywood, California. Clint, thank you.